Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back. It's Monday, June 15th, and it is 10:55 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, I've already recorded the Q video from, well, when Q posted a couple days ago. I've got that uploaded and it's still processing. And in the meantime, I'm going to go on and do another video about the news. Because let me tell you, one video isn't going to do it. I could probably do 2 or 3, but of course it is getting late. But there's always tomorrow. And if Q doesn't post, I'll probably do 2 news videos. Okay, well, let's jump over here. No, really, let's jump. And I do want to thank Triple H, Heather H in Houston. Thank you so much, Heather. Of course, you know, I haven't had any other donations because I haven't been, this has been 3 nights that I haven't posted because I have been sick. So, but I am feeling much better now. I was feeling better last night, but I was still really weak. So I thought I'm going to give it one more day. So, and I'm glad I did because I'm back to normal, whatever normal is for me. Okay, well, let's just jump in. I've got a ton of stuff, a ton, but I'm just going to take it as it comes and we'll get through it. And whatever I don't get to tonight, I'm going to bring tomorrow night, as well as other news that happens tomorrow, because, well, every day brings like a year's worth of news, it seems, these days. Okay, let's look at this. This kind of really shocked me. I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but African American reparation bill passes California Assembly. Now, how on earth do they plan on doing that? Because I don't know how. There are no people alive today that were slaves. So I don't know how you're going to determine, you know, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Sacramento, California, a proposal to establish a task force to study and prepare recommendations for how to give reparations to African Americans passed the California Assembly on Thursday. The bill advanced with a 56-5 vote as protests nationwide over police brutality re-energized the movement for racial justice, and activists pressed for sweeping reforms. It is a top priority for California's Legislative Black Caucus. If the bill passes the Senate and is signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom, 8 people with backgrounds in racial justice reforms will lead a study into who would be eligible for compensation and how it should be awarded. So they're going to take, now, none of us that I'm aware of have ever owned slaves. So I certainly haven't, because I was born in Canada and I'm half Native. I'm half Mohawk Indian. So how, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want my taxpayer money going to pay reparations for, you know, no Black has been born into slavery in this generation. The last couple generations, actually. So just not sure how that would work. And I can think of a lot of reasons why it would be a bad idea. Assemblywoman Shirley Weber, a Democrat from San Diego who wrote the bill, said the study would reiterate California's history of abetting slavery, even as it joined the Union as a free state in 1850. The discriminatory practices of the past echo into the everyday lives of today's Californians, said Weber, who leads the Legislative Black Caucus. The panel would start meeting no later than June 2021. Congress last June held the first hearing on reparations in over a decade about a bill to study providing compensation to atone for the country's history of slavery. But the legislation did not make it to a vote. The federal government has given reparations before. After 120,000 Japanese Americans were held at internment camps during World War II, the U.S. government apologized and in 1988 paid $20,000 to each surviving victim. We seem to recognize that justice requires that those who have been treated unjustly need the means to make themselves whole again, Weber said. Another priority of California's Legislative Black Caucus passed Wednesday when lawmakers approved a proposal to repeal California's affirmative action ban. Passed the Assembly. Voters will decide on the measure in November if the Senate approves the bill by June 25th. Well, I can assure you they won't. They won't, because it doesn't make sense. There is nobody alive now that I'm aware of that has been, you know, a slave, not in this country, not in the US. So I just don't. Yes, I think that if they were going to pay reparations, they should have done so while the victims of slavery were still alive. Because I don't think, you know, the great-great-grandchildren or great-great-great-grandchildren of these slaves, why are they owed, you know, reparations when really they've been given every opportunity that Americans have been given, you know, that all Americans have been given. I don't know. But let me know what you think. Do not make any racist comments, please. I have never seen anybody, any of my listeners, make any statements like that, but I'm just saying, because I will erase them. You know, especially they are looking for things like that. And of course, you know, it's just not proper to denigrate any race. I don't care who they are. So there we go. Let's go back and let's look at this. All right, video, knife-wielding man yells, and I'm not going to say this word, but it is a word that a certain religion yells when they are usually when they're killing somebody. Stabs New York Police Department cop in the neck. You know, I would not want to be a police officer right now, not for all the money in the world. And in the US, they are not paid appropriately. I was horrified because when I worked up for the police up here, and that was, my gosh, many years ago, I made more all those years ago than cops make presently in the United States. So I just don't think that that's right, because they are putting their life in danger, especially in larger cities. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, even small places have their crime, but yeah, not to me. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I wouldn't subject myself to that, nor my family, because the family of these men and women in blue worry all the time. I've known people that have had family members in the police force, and they worried. They worried all the time about whether they were going to come home that night. Brooklyn, New York, security footage captured the moment when a knife-wielding suspect blindsided a New York Police Department officer and stabbed him in the neck during the riots last week. 2 other officers were shot as they rushed to help the injured officer. Police said that the suspect, 20-year-old Desden Kamovic, is believed to be Serbian immigrant who may have links to terrorism, the New York Daily News reported. The incident began at approximately 11:45 as New York police officer Jean-Francois Jean-Pierre and a second officer were standing guard on the corner of Flatbush Avenue and Church Avenue to help deter looters, WNBC reported. Security footage showed the suspect as he briefly rounded the corner and stabbed Officer Pierre on the right side of his neck from behind. And he said these little magical words here, which really aren't so magical. He allegedly screamed 3 times as he plunged the blade into the officer's neck, according to the New York Daily News. The officer fell to the ground just before Kamovic allegedly stole his duty weapon, the New York Post reported. Shots were fired during the struggle that ensued, drawing the attention of nearby sergeant, WNBC reported. The suspect was holding one of the officer's duty weapons when the sergeant arrived at the scene, according to police. The sergeant opened fire, hitting the suspect 8 times. New York Police Department NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea told reporters. It is unclear whether or not the suspect fired the weapon he'd stolen from Officer Pierre. 2 other officers both suffered a gunshot wound to their hands, WNBC reported. This was not a chance encounter. It was a planned assassination attempt on a New York Police Department officer. Police officer, the New York Police Department, NYPD, tweeted on Saturday, "It's only by sheer luck that this didn't have a drastically different outcome." A total of 22 rounds were fired during the incident, which was also captured captured by the officer's body cams. WNBC reported the suspect's knife was recovered at the scene. Officer Pierre, a Haitian immigrant, has been released from the hospital and is recovering from his stab wound at home, the New York Daily News reported. Kamovic, who remains hospitalized and has been intubated, has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder on a police officer, according to the New York Post. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, has also launched an investigation into the incident. Watch the incident unfold in the video below.
The NYPD has released a new video of an officer being stabbed in Brooklyn. The officer was on anti-looting patrol Wednesday night when police say a 20-year-old suspect stabbed him in the neck and shot 2 other officers before being shot by police. The suspect allegedly shouted the Islamic phrase, Allah Akbar, 3 times. Police say the nature of this assault is similar to Al-Qaeda and ISIS-inspired attacks in Europe, and they are now investigating whether terrorism did in fact play a role. The officers are expected to survive. That suspect is in critical condition.
Unbelievable. So,
the NYPD.
Whoops. So, yeah. Not a great time to be a police officer. And it's really a shame. Yes, there are some bad police officers, but there's a whole lot of good ones too. So I don't think that it's fair to paint them all with the same brush. And the other thing is that when you're in a rush, like what happened in the Wendy's drive-thru recently, and everybody's upset about that, but you know, now I understand that, I mean, the guy was sleeping, he was drunk. They're making it sound like, well, they just killed this man that was sleeping in his car at Wendy's. No, he was sleeping in the drive-thru line and he was drunk. He was passed out drunk in the line for the drive-thru, which other people couldn't frequent then. And so they called the police saying, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. He's passed out in his car. They didn't know if he was drunk or if he had a medical condition or what. So the police arrive and they realize that he is drunk and they go to place him under arrest and he fights back. Now, no, he didn't have to shoot him, but, you know, the thing is that it's really easy to judge when you're not in the situation. And it's very easy to judge and say, well, that officer's wrong. But when that adrenaline's pumping and you don't know if it's going to be him or you or what, I don't know. I'm not excusing it by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that he needed to shoot him. I mean, the guy could have left. He had his car. He had the tags. He could have run the tags, found out where the guy lived, had the car towed, you know, and dealt with it at a later time, because at that time he had part of his stun gun, the part with the little, I don't know what you call it. Anyway, but, you know, he didn't have a gun on him, but then, I don't know, maybe the officer wasn't sure whether he did or not. I don't know. I'm not excusing it because to me, it looked like it was not a necessary shooting. Had the guy gotten his service weapon, then yes, that would have been, but if he got his service weapon, it would have been the police officer dead. So I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. This is by G Money. Why is Antifa waving a UN flag? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Why are they waving a UN flag? Things that make you go, At least they do me. All right. And now they're saying that this guy, you've probably heard this because of course I'm a little bit behind. Okay, I'm a few days behind. Martin Gugino, 75-year-old, pushed in Buffalo, has brain injury, will start physiotherapy. Now, I don't believe this. I believe what President Trump said, that this guy is an agent provocateur. If you go out to his Twitter and Facebook and so forth, I mean, which is now probably cleaned up and gone, he was saying F the police. And I mean, he was obviously not a fan of the police. So, and he was literally scanning their communications with his cell phone There is software that can do that. So that's what he was doing. I don't believe that this man was hurt at all. This guy does this. That's what he does. So, yeah, I think they're trying to make it seem like, yeah. I think they're making it seem like it's something that it's not. Gugino of Amherst has been in serious but stable condition, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to read this because I don't believe it. I would like someone to go to the hospital that he is supposed to be at. And where is that? Erie County Medical Center's rehabilitation floor. It'd be interesting if anybody works there, if anyone works at Erie County Medical Center's rehabilitation floor, I'd like to know if he's actually there, because I don't think he is. I would be absolutely floored if he was. But, if you press that too hard, the press will set that up. They'll set up a fake hospital bed with this guy in it saying, oh, whatever. So they're saying his brain is injured. I think his brain was injured far before he fell. He's been an agent provocateur. He does that. That's what he does. So anyway, oh, look at Martin is a soft-spoken, but thoughtful and principled man. Well, I didn't see a principled man when I checked out his Facebook or Twitter. I can't remember which it was, but it was all F the police and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it didn't seem so principled to me. But that's just me. All right. Let's go on now. Okay. Oh, wait. Let's do this first. Let's just take it as it comes. Okay. It says they are asking UN to overthrow Trump. Trump told international courts he will protect our sovereignty. Now, I'm not gonna read all this, but it's just enough to know, and you've probably heard this in the news already, that the rioters and so forth are asking the UN to overthrow Trump, a duly elected president that has not brought a speck of harm to this country. It's not his fault. He didn't create the virus, and these riots are certainly not his fault either. So, I don't know, but there's that. And let's come back, and this, Connie, a child of God, says, hey, California, just got this in my email. The petition to recall Governor Newsom was given approval by the Secretary of State to begin circulating June 10th, 2020 at 5:27 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We now have 160 days to gather 2 million signatures, and we need your help to do that. Now, I'm not sure where you go to sign this, but I bet you if you Googled it, or DuckDuckGo'd it, I don't know what the verb of DuckDuckGo is, but if you do that, you may be able to find this. And if you are in California and unsatisfied with the job that Governor Newsom is doing, which probably if you're listening to me, you are, so I would Google that and find out where you can sign if you feel inclined to do that. I'm not telling you what to do. Anyway, and this from Breaking 911. Breaking, Minneapolis City Council unanimously passes resolution to replace police department with a community-led public safety system. Reuters. Well, I'd like to see how that works out for them. Yeah, we'll, the fix isn't in on that, but we'll see how that works out. I'm just very thankful not to be living in Minneapolis. However, if you are living in Minneapolis, I would like to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below, because we all want to hear. How are things going there? What are you experiencing? I'd like to know. Was your area damaged? I really would like to hear from people that are actually there, because they would know better than all of us. So there you go. And let's look at this. And Burundi President Pierre, and Pierre has a last name, unfortunately, that I cannot even attempt, dies of cardiac arrest at 55. Now, the reason I included this is because that's a little bit suspicious, if you ask me. People don't usually have a cardiac arrest at 55. Burundi's president, Pierre N., age 55, has died after suffering a cardiac arrest. The government says he was admitted to hospital on Saturday after feeling unwell. His condition improved, but on Monday he had a cardiac arrest and efforts to revive him were unsuccessful. After 15 years in power, Mr. N was due to step down in August. In 2015, the announcement that he would run for a third term plunged the country into chaos. It sparked anger as some questioned the legality of a third term bid. There was a failed coup attempt. Hundreds of people died in clashes and tens of thousands fled the country. I know you know why I think it's suspicious. After a change in the Constitution, he was able to run for a further term in last month's election, but decided to retire and was to be known as the Supreme Guide to Patriotism. Oh, that's funny. He was also due to receive 540,000 or 440,000 pounds retirement pay and a luxury villa. Well, isn't it convenient that he died? Now they don't have to pay that. Yeah, that's why I say it's suspicious. There is such a thing. You can look this up because if you are not up to speed on this, you will think that I'm crazy, but there is such a thing as a heart attack gun. They can give, if you get close enough to a person with this device, you can give them a heart attack, and you can look it up. Just Google it or whatever search engine that you use. You can search for that and find that it does indeed exist. All right, so there's that. And let's go on. I'm just going to go until, for about an hour, and then I'll... Okay, let's look at this. The craziest thing I've seen in a very long time. Yep. Elmer Fudd to no longer have rifle in new Looney Tunes cartoons. So, what's he gonna hunt the rabbit with? Like a bow and arrow? I don't know. Tampa, Florida, WFLA, Elmer Fudd will no longer carry a rifle in HBO Max's collection of shorts called Looney Tunes Cartoons. According to the New York Times, the first short, titled Dynamic Dance, has the feel of old school Looney Tunes. In the video, Bugs Bunny goes after Elmer Fudd, it should be not Judd, with dynamite. However, Fudd will no longer carry his token rifle. Character Yosemite Sam will no longer carry pistols. Series executive producer Peter Braungart told the New York Times, "We're not doing guns." News of the change to the character went viral on social media on Saturday. Yeah, he looks kind of like a communist there with a big, what's that called? I know how the word is spelled, I just don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, yeah, really weird because hunters have guns. Unless they have, what do they have? Those bows and things, there's a name for them. Probably not a bow and arrow. I don't know. Bow hunting. Yeah, that's what it's bow hunting. However, Fudd will no longer carry his token rifle. And okay, we read that. And I can't believe this needs to be said, but Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd were never responsible gun owners anyway. Oh, that's funny. Do you seriously care whether or not Elmer Fudd has a gun in our shorts? You know how many gags we can do with guns? Fairly few. And the best were already done by the old guys. It's limiting. It was never about the gun. It was about Elmer's flawed, challenged masculinity. Okay. Elmer Fudd doesn't have a gun in the new Looney Tunes cartoon because the creators don't support the Second Amendment. Pathetic. Isn't the whole point of the character is that he hunts wascally wabbits? Or are they getting rid of his speech impediment because it's offensive too? That's funny. So anyway, there you go. That's what we've come to. People have become so sensitive. Just like they fall apart. They really fall apart over everything. Absolutely everything. That's what happens when you insist that everybody gets a participation medal. You raise a bunch of wusses. Can't believe that. But I can't believe a lot of things we're seeing these days. All right. Yes, and I think I've covered this before, but it bears repeating. Exploited again, financial contributions to Black Lives Matter are being funneled to Biden campaign. I did cover this in the past, and I'm not going to read all this, but put this in the things that make other things make sense file. Some smart sleuthing by Rahim Kassim and Natalie Winters at the National Pulse shows the donations made to Black Lives Matter actually goes to Act Blue. From there, Act Blue takes those contributions and sends them forward to the Joe Biden campaign. Well, isn't that special? While the Biden campaign insists it doesn't support efforts to defund the police, it may happily profit from Black Lives Matter efforts and is complicit in taking money from an organization partnered with those spearheading the dangerous policy that has already taken root in Minneapolis, New York, and Los Angeles. After reaching the Black Lives Matter homepage, which features a defund the police petition front and center, if a user chooses to donate, they're rerouted to a site hosted by Act Blue and prompted with the message, "We appreciate your support of the movement and our ongoing fight to end state-sanctioned violence, liberate Black people, and end white supremacy forever." Joe Biden is the top beneficiary of the Act Blue's fundraising efforts. This means donations to Black Lives Matter are actually the primary funding mechanism for Joe Biden 2020. And that explains why National Democrats, Pelosi, and the DNC have changed their positions on Black Lives Matter as an activist organization and now embrace them openly. So, all right, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I wanted you to know that in case you have not heard. I did cover it in a past video, but just in case you didn't hear that, I wanted to be sure that everybody knows. Pass it on. And, yeah. Oh, things that make you go, huh? Here we are, the Washington Examiner. Well, hello, Xander. You gonna say hi? Come on. There you go. Portland mayor gives every city employee 40 hours of paid time off to mourn 400 years of Black oppression. 40 hours of paid time off. Well, I'm just saying, okay, let's say that I worked for the city of Portland and they gave me 40 hours of paid time off. That's a week. You think I'm going to sit home and just mourn? Put on like sackcloth and ashes and, I don't know, sit in a dung pile or something and wear scratchy, itchy clothes? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think that's what I do. I'd probably, what would I do? Well, the weather's nice. I'd probably go swimming in some nice clean lakes. All right. I don't know. But, yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And who pays for that? Well, the people of Portland. So, okay. Oh, and let's just look at this, shall we? Of course we shall. Exclusive. Hillary Clinton funneled millions of tax dollars into the Clinton Foundation while she was Obama's Secretary of State. Well, anybody surprised? Please raise your hand. Anybody? Come on. Some of you guys in the back there. Anybody surprised? No, not one hand. Not even one. You guys are pretty keen. As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton funneled millions of dollars in tax money to the Clinton Foundation and its various charitable entities and cronies, according to new alarming revelations unveiled on the Thomas Paine podcast and the More Paine Show on Patreon. By the two investigators who blew the whistle on the massive Clinton Foundation tax fraud during a congressional hearing in 2018. And of course, there's a podcast here. If you listen to Paine, where is this? Well, it's just called the Thomas Paine podcast, which is probably, True Pundit. You can access it there. So John Moynihan and Larry Doyle testified to Congress, detailing the fraud and schemes utilized by the Clintons to avoid paying up to $2.5 billion in federal taxes. And who loses? who loses out? Those taxes go to support programs and, well, lots of things. But, you know, Hillary Clinton loved the United States so much that she built them of $2.5 billion in federal taxes. Isn't that special? Yeah. The investigative duo, in their first interview since that bombshell congressional testimony, revealed to Payne that Hillary Clinton was using the top perch of the State Department to funnel money back into the Clinton Foundation and to her political cronies. How did she do this? How much money is involved? And why isn't she in federal prison? Well, that's a good question. It says the story is developing. Yep. Anyway, let's go back now because there's more. There's always more. Okay, let's look at this now. Why not? Okay, Democrat House. Oh, stop. Hang on here. I gotta disable my ad thingy and. All right, now we're going to be probably bombarded with car things because, well, my car's getting old. And I've been looking for cars, so it's like everywhere I go, car ads pop up. Okay, Democrats are now siding with the people who are breaking the law. Well, that's no surprise. In Texas, Kim Olson is a Democrat running for a House seat. During a video conference this week, she came right out and said, "Burn it to the ground." Is this a person Texans want representing them? Well, I guess Texans will have to decide that. I would say no, but... And it says a leading Democrat candidate in a closely watched House race brushed off looting and arson that occurred during nationwide unrest during protests about racism and police brutality sparked by the death of George Floyd. What the hell you got snipers on the roof for in peaceful march? Even if people loot, so what? Burn it to the ground. You know, if that's what it's going to take to fix our nation, retired Air Force Colonel Kim Olson said during a live digital event on Tuesday, shown in a clip obtained by the Washington Examiner. I guess, you know, it's okay to burn it to the ground unless it's her house or, you know, something like that. She might feel differently then. I don't think people want me to say that, added Olson. You're right. People don't want you to say that, added Olson, a Democratic candidate in Texas' 24th congressional district, which covers much of the suburban area in between Fort Worth and Dallas. Olson, 62, made the comment during a several-minute answer to a question about what she thought about far-left calls to disband or defund police departments. I don't know. I'm not going to watch the video. I don't want to hear. Do you? How long is it? Well, I don't know. Let's play it.
It concerns me all the things I'm hearing about defunding
You know what? This is like 4 minutes and 27 seconds. We already know what she said, so I'm going to skip on that. If you don't mind, because that means I can get to more news. And it's all about news. All right. Oh, this is going to make you mad. I promise you. It will make you mad. It enrages me. It really does. Man accused of killing black police captain. Remember the one that was guarding his friend's store and he was shot? He was a retired police captain. He was black. And the man accused of killing him got a 7-year jail sentence. Never served a day in jail. Yep. Now, this is for a past crime, I believe. The man who the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department arrested this week for allegedly murdering retired St. Louis police captain David Dorn was previously convicted and sentenced to 7 years in prison in 2014, but never spent a day inside of a jail cell. Stephen Cannon, 24, was sentenced to 7 years. Oh, I'm losing my voice. Hang on. Was sentenced to 7 years for felony robbery, but the judge gave him a break, Fox News reported. Cannon got probation under what's called a suspended execution of sentence. Court records show Cannon then violated probation twice and got 2 more breaks. He never went to prison. Dorn was killed last week while he was guarding pawn shop from looters amid the violent riots that broke out across the nation in response to the death of George Floyd. Relative to the investigation into the murder of retired Captain David Dorn, officers arrested Stephen Cannon, or Stefan Cannon, and the circuit attorney's office issued 1 count of murder first, 1 count of burglary first, 1 count of unlawful possession of a firearm, and 2 counts of armed criminal action. The department said in a statement, bond not allowed. Officers also arrested Jimmy Robinson, and the circuit attorney's office issued 1 count of burglary first, 1 count of armed criminal action, and 1 count of stealing. The department added bond was set at $30,000 cash only. So, and it says relative to the investigation into the murder of retired Captain David Dorn, officers arrested Stefan Cannon, and the issued 1 count of murder first, 1 count of burglary. Okay. Well, let's hope he goes away for a very long time, because that was an unnecessary killing in cold blood and left the man to bleed out on the street. I mean, somebody that treated a dog that way would go to jail. So he needs to go to prison for a long time. I can't imagine somebody being that callous to just take somebody's life over what? TV? What? I don't know. Officers also arrested Jimmy Robinson. Now his bond is set at $30,000. The department later added that Cannon had also been charged with 1 count of robbery first and an additional count of armed criminal action. The Daily Wire reported last week on Dorn's death. In video that has since been removed, Dorn, 77, can be seen defending the business during his last moments of life. Dorn was killed by looters and rioters who broke into Lee's pawn and jewelry. His body was found on the sidewalk outside around 2:30 a.m. Tuesday. Dorn's wife, I'm sorry, get down. Sorry. Cats, you can't live with them and you can't live with them. Sorry. Okay. Dorn's wife, St. Louis Police Sergeant Anne Marie Dorn, told the St. Louis Dispatch that her husband was friends with the owner of the pawn shop and regularly came to the owner's aid whenever alarms went off. But here's the thing, and I did see that video. Okay, get down. I did see that video, and literally several people came up to his body. He's laying there bleeding out on the pavement, and nobody does a darn thing. Couldn't somebody have picked up their phone and called 911? I mean, really, perhaps his life could have been saved if somebody had been a little proactive, but nope, they didn't care. So please tell me again how Black Lives Matter. Please. His life didn't seem to matter. So anyway, President Donald Trump honored Dorn in a tweet last week, writing, "Our highest respect to the family of David Dorn, a great police captain from St. Louis who was viciously shot and killed by despicable looters last night. We honor our police officers perhaps more than ever before. Thank you." So yeah, anyway, I feel bad that man lost his life. He was a husband, a father, and a grandfather. All right. Let's go on now and let's look at this. And what is this? Oh, yeah. Yes. Meanwhile, at Chaz, or whatever they're calling it now, in Seattle, a new law is created making white people each give $10 to a black person. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's listen to this. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Okay. I want you to find by the time you leave this autonomous zone, I want you to give $10 to one African American person from this autonomous zone. And if you find that's difficult, if you find it's hard for you to give $10 to people of color, to black people especially, you have to think really critically about in the future, are you going to actually give up power and land and capital when you have it? If you have a hard time giving out $10, you got to think about, are you really down with this struggle? Are you really down with the movement? Because if that is a challenge for you, then I'm not sure if you're in the right place. So find an African American person, or white people, I see you. I see every single one of you. And I remember your faces. You find that African American person and you give them $10. Cash App, Venmo, $10 in your pocket. That's my challenge to you. Do it.
Did you hear what he said? Well, first of all, not everybody I never carry cash. I never have cash on me. It's very, very, very rare. Sometimes I have enough change to buy a coffee in my purse, but I mean, I just never carry cash because all I have to do is tap and it comes right out of my account. So, yeah, I mean, why would I risk my life carrying cash? But anyway, this guy's saying, well, if you find it hard to give up $10, how are you going to give up land and possessions and so forth? So you see what they're thinking? This is only a step to dispossessing white people of what they own and giving it to the blacks. And, you know, sounds a lot like South Africa. You know, I mean, the white people, I mean, I've had to work my whole life and, and at times it's been difficult, but, I don't know. So why am I not entitled to anything, but they're entitled to take what I worked for and earned? I don't get that. Do you get that? Because I don't. I mean, I know that's just plain socialism. You take from those that work and you give to those that don't. And I'm not saying all these black people don't work. I'm sure they do. But it just doesn't make sense, and I wouldn't have a problem giving somebody $10. That's not the issue. It's the principle behind it, like I give to people that are in need all the time. If someone needs groceries or this or that, if I have it to give and I come across somebody in need, I'll do my very best. But this is a little beyond the pale. Okay. Well, I don't know. It makes me laugh. Give everybody, you have to give somebody, an African American, $10. Okay, well, why not give $10 to the Latinos or the Asians? I don't know. Okay, well, I guess because it's Black Lives Matter. I guess the Asians and the Latinos, their lives don't matter as much. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on now. Yes, I saw this and I liked it. And I don't care what anybody says. I like it. American patriots retake the Seattle occupation zone for America. Wait, what is this? This is July 4th. Well, it's dated like for tomorrow. This is weird. It says June 12th, 2020. So, I mean, it's a few days old, but, oh, I see. Okay. Down here. On July 4th, Independence Day, a coalition of patriot groups and all who want to join are going to retake the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone for America. Antifa members are illegally occupying public property and terrorizing small businesses in the neighborhood. American patriots have agreed to come together again, remove the barricades illegally obstructing traffic, and free the people in the zone. We are not going to hurt anybody, break the law, etc. We are simply going to tear down the illegal barriers on public property, clean up the mess these communist kids made, and return the police station over to the Seattle Police Department control. The staging area will be Seward Park. The parking lot can handle roughly 10,000 bikes easily. Seattle-bound outlaws and Hell's Angels with the Bikers for Trump are on their way to Seattle to get Antifa's asses. So I don't know, the only problem with that, and I think it's a great idea, but the only problem is that they are likely to dress up like these people and start something so that it'll be blamed on them, because that's how these people operate. So it could be good and it might not be good. It says, link to the event. What do you think about this idea? Well, I think it's a good idea overall. I just would be afraid that, you know, somebody's going to dress up like them and do something stupid. All right. And then they'll all blame it on Trump. See, it'll all come back to Trump. Oh, this is Trump's fault because, you know, Antifa could dress like one of these guys, shoot somebody or start something, and then it'll all come back to, oh, these are all white racists. They're white nationalists. They're white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. You know. All right. Okay. Let's look at this. And again, I'm sorry that this news is several days old, but I haven't been posting for 3 days. So, as we go down, we're going to get more caught up with the news. Unfortunately, it'll probably be tomorrow. Okay, the barbarians are in charge. Scenes from the sacking of America. And this is from Natural News. It says Seattle's East Precinct has fallen as Police Chief Carmen Best orders Seattle police to evacuate the occupiers, aka the peaceful protesters, declare victory. They've given us the precinct, they boast, not even in South Africa. A mere day on, and the city of Seattle is de facto occupied territory, fallen to the peaceful protesters, the same counterculture media darlings who have been sacking cities across America. The rabble, Black Lives Matter sympathizers, which, as police arrest records show, is almost entirely local, was further roused by Seattle City Council member Kshama Sawant, formerly of Mumbai. Most reprehensibly, Pied Piper Sawant led the peacemakers to occupy City Hall in downtown Seattle on Tuesday, June 10th. The altercation between council members Sawant and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan gives new meaning to the broad sweep of ideas in this dysfunctional city. Sawant, a socialist, called on Mayor Durkan, a progressive, to resign over abuse of power. What power? And the systemic racism, a meaningless abstraction. This as the city was being sacked. Surrender monkeys. As of this writing, the Seattle police has surrendered without defeat. 7 blocks of downtown Seattle, renamed the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ, has been appropriated by the peaceful ones, with this imprimatur of the mayor and her police chief, Carmen Best, aforementioned, now loosed on the public. These buccaneering entrepreneurs are reporting to have set up checkpoints to shake down residents who imagine they may come and go. Not in this satrapy. On the positive side, Seattle now has that shite hole country vibrancy. The president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild penned an open letter to lunatic Mayor Durkan, pondering how he would fulfill his sworn oath of office to protect lives and property without so much as tear gas. He got his answer. America did. Across the United States, the message to law-abiding Americans from city, town, county, council members, and the legislators came loud and clear. You're on your own. Neither police nor politicians are coming to protect what's left of your businesses or your banal bourgeois little life. Last I looked, there were 400,000 guardian angels in private security toiling to make up for the South African state's failure to protect its people. Every year, millions in taxpayer money are forked out to private security firms to protect the new South Africa police stations. South Africa's, now they're talking about America, but they're also talking about what's happening in South America because it's very similar. South Africa's protectors can't protect themselves. Will Seattle's neutered policemen be investigating this option? It's time for them to cut the shafted taxpayers loose. Let us go private. When all is said and done, the George Floyd riots are a law and order event. Nothing else matters in the overarching context of a failed state in which ordered liberty is dead and the law-abiding are utterly forsaken, even vilified. Yes, victims are now villains, and villains are martyrs. Unbeknownst to Nicholas Fernandez, a gainfully employed security guard, the Capitol Hill district of Seattle now belongs to the peaceful protesters. Fernandez dared to drive down it only to be mobbed by the barbarians and forced to shoot an attacker possessing of animal-like agility. Legacy media quickly turned the narrative on its head. Fernandez, whose brother is a policeman, had invaded peaceful protester turf. His attacker took a bullet for peace. Hero. You know, the Bible says in the last days that good will be evil. Men will call good evil and evil good. That is exactly where we are. Kneeling ninnies. Next came the national kneeling. Once again, the state of Washington led the way. On June 1st, after hundreds of looters ransacked major shopping malls in Bellevue, including the spectacular Bellevue Square, that city's police chief, Steve Milet, knelt down like a girl instead of standing tall like a man for law and order. This was a scary scene in Deliverance, someone quipped on Twitter. That was it. There was no stopping the kinky trend. Soon, Chief Brian Manley of Austin, Texas, broke down in tears for the protesters, not for property owners robbed. Real manly. It's almost as though WASPs got a homoerotic sexual charge out of prostrating themselves to the evil other. The camera panned out across the country to reveal policemen and guardsmen caving against the backdrop of Mad Max-like dystopian destruction. Men in uniforms all collapsed to the pavement like yogis to the command of their black tormentors, one after another. Here in Santa Cruz, Police Chief Andy Mills kneeling. The forces, police and paramilitary, all squatted like sissies. Isn't there some code of conduct preventing uniforms from groveling? Police acquit themselves honorably by doing the job ethically. Activism is not in the job description. In Parker, Colorado, masses assumed the postures of ordination, prostration, lying prone, limbs splayed. Congressional Democrats, led by Nancy, did the same. Is twerking next? Finally, we have a man in the House. Georgia State Trooper O'Neill Sadler, black, refused to kneel during a Black Lives Matter protest in Hartwell, saying he only kneels for God. And what a hot, decadent mess was this National Guard bump and grind in Atlanta. Men, women, and everything in between, mostly fat, hips swaying as they give themselves over to Dionysian urges. Cops can't be responsible for every misstep a feeble-minded protester takes. An elderly geezer, Martin Gugino, in Buffalo, New York, came right up to a cop's face when the latter was on the march. Cops pushed the git to get past him. The geezer was expecting a group hug, wasn't prepared for a shove. He lost his balance and fell backward like a twig. I saw no excess force except a get-out-of-my-face shove, but the cops were hung out to dry. As to Jacob Frey's shtick, he was totally His was total grief appropriation. Frey is the mayor of Minneapolis, where George Floyd, in whose honor the global orgy of aberration and destruction is being carried out, died by cop. Only people who knew an individual can legitimately have a Frey-like grand mal when mourning him. Otherwise, Frey's performance at the casket was farcical, inauthentic, histrionic. The advice of Humphrey Bogart, playing Rick Blaine in Casablanca, channeled by Woody Allen in Play It Again, Sam, should have been considered. I never saw a dame yet that didn't understand a good slap in the mouth. The spectacle of mass contagion, where members of the public turn into professional mourners, flocking to funeral happenings for victims they never knew. This is warped. Grief is not a tribal affair. Communities don't grieve. Individuals who incur loss do. These are professional pornographers, not mourners. These phony displays among regular folks are at the root of our festering cultural commons. As kids, we knew our local policeman by name. He patrolled our neighborhoods regularly and joshed around with us. He lived among us. Community policing, however, is a thing of the past. Former Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson, notorious for shooting Michael Brown, gave a clue as to why. Wilson told the New Yorker that while he didn't want to work in a white area like the black community and had fun there, he had experienced culture shock. Wilson described venturing into a different culture, a pre-gang culture where you're just running in the streets, not worried about working in the morning, just worried about your immediate gratification. For his candor about an alien culture overtaking America, Wilson was called racist by CNN Boris Sanchez and Kate Bolduan. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. To make us love our country ought to be lovable, said Edmund Burke in his Reflections on the Revolution in France, 1790. Wilson's words suggest a variation of Burke's theme. To make cops love the community they police, the communities they police ought to be lovely. Burke further reminded us in 1790 that to love the little platoon we belong to is the first principle, the germ, as it were, of public affections. But what happens when those platoons are not so little and not so lovely? A country that is without a modicum of cultural cohesion and is, by DC design, compromised of ever accreting, competing factions. This kind of country cannot be lovely in the Burkean sense. In fairness to law enforcement, communities in America must be damn difficult to police. That is true. Very, very true. All right. Well, let's go back. I'm just about out of time here. In fact, I really am out of time. But let's take a look at this. Shame on President Trump for using the Bible as a prop. And there's Chucky for a photo op. And then what are they doing? They're wearing this cloth. I think it's called the kente cloth, which has angered real true Africans because it means something, and they are using it as a prop. That's exactly what they're doing. All right, now I have so much more, so much more, but I think I'm going to end it there. Oh yes, and by the way, I will not be using L'Oreal products anymore. No more. And I'll tell you why. Because of this. Bye-bye, L'Oreal. I, for one, won't be using your products anymore. Neither will I. L'Oreal advisors' message to white people. Your existence, privilege, and success as a race is built on the backs, blood, and death of a people of color. Your entire existence is drenched in racism. Yeah, that's L'Oreal's advisor's message to white people. And here's another. L'Oreal advisor's message to white people. Racism isn't learned. It's inherited and consciously or unconsciously passed down through privilege. Yeah, let that sink in. Oh, and here's one more. Once white people begin to admit that their race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk. So, I, for one, will not be supporting them any longer, because why should they have the use of my white money? They're calling me as a white person. My entire existence is drenched in racism, and I've inherited racism. It's been passed down through my privilege. So why should they be, I don't want to bother them with my white money, I mean, really, they don't like my whiteness. So why should I, enrich them with my money? I won't ever again. And yeah, so that's it. None for me. And I don't know about you, but you're free to do as you wish. But I'm just passing that along, that if you are white, that's how they feel about you. Now, I can't help my skin color any more than a black person can help theirs, or a Chinese person, or whatever race. You're born how you're born. I didn't ask. I can't change it. Anyway, and look at this. See, what we're having now is reverse racism. That's what we're having. they're being, they tend to think that racism only goes one way. It doesn't, not at all. There are many, of different races that are, racist against us, white people. I don't know. But anyway, I thought this was interesting. Look at this. And then I've got to go real soon. Okay, this garden is for Black and Indigenous folks and their plant allies. Well, that's the most pathetic garden I've ever seen in my life, number one. Number two, I also saw pictures of a homeless person dancing in that garden and ruining it. If you're white, this garden isn't for you. But I just want to put this out there. I don't want that garden. So, help yourselves, Black and Indigenous folks. Help yourselves. Weird. I mean, look at this little pathetic garden. What are they going to grow in that? Not much. Yeah. And from Dan Bongino, San Francisco police officers will be replaced with trained, unarmed professionals to respond to calls for help on non-criminal matters involving mental health, the homeless, school discipline, and neighbor disputes as part of a new wave of police reforms. Dan Bongino responds and says people will die because of this. There is absolutely no doubt. No doubt in my mind either. All right. Well, I think I'm going to stop there, and I still have a lot of stuff here, but it'll save until tomorrow. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it so very, very much. And you guys have a great evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth, and be a friend to the poor helpless creatures of this world. All right. Good night, guys. Sleep well.